Hi everyone, my name is RUUD and this is how I made Fine With Tonight featuring Willa. It's out now on Dharma, links down below. I'm gonna go through my project files for this track and show you my workflow, as well as showing you a couple of the tricks I used making this track. At first, when I make music, I usually start off with a brainstorm project. Here I just throw elements at the song and see what sticks. I do some rough mixing to get the sound about right, but nothing too advanced. The first thing you hear in the track is the sound of a match being lit, followed by this bonfire sound, which are these two. Together with these, you also have this flute sound. It really sets the mood for the track. I actually recorded the flutes myself with that cheap flute I bought at a toy shop, and it's incredible what kind of sounds I've been able to make with it. Just listen to these. I also have this reversed guitar chord that introduces the guitar sound of the track at the very start. I've also added this string ambience effect from Jonas Aiden, which pans to either side and spices up the stereo image in the intro. I've also got some more reversed reverb effects, as well as some more reversed guitars. And together the intro ambience sounds like this. In the drop I originally made these claps. But I felt they were a bit too uninteresting and didn't add too much to the track. So I layered in another clap to fill it out. Then on every fourth I added a bit longer clap to give it some more groove. I also layered in this reverb pluck to make the claps a bit more interesting. Also, I have these reverse claps that really helps pulling the track forward. I also put some short reverb on the claps to put them all in a room. It sounds like that, and then I just pull down the wet knob a bit. I also did the same thing with the hats. I originally had these two layered together, which ended up sounding a bit dull. So I added this smaller hat to give it a bit of groove. Then on the last hat of each bar I layered in this open hat. And lastly I added some reverb to them to make them sound a bit more organic. I also automated this auto pan effect to give the final open hat some spice. Together with the claps, it sounds like this. I also added this high sustained cello effect in the chorus. It really keeps the tension going in the build-up and into the drop. It's actually just a random cello effect from Nexus 2 with some EQing to remove the unnecessary frequencies. I also did some pitch bending in the MIDI just to make it sound a bit more creepy, and I think it turned out great in the final mix.
I'll be fine with tonight. I'll be fine with tonight right now.
Then, after creating all the melodies and elements, I took all of the individual layers from this project and bounced them out as stems, grouping together as many sounds as I can so that the next project gets easier to work with. With almost 200 layers, it gets real messy real fast. In this project, I redid the mix for most of the elements in the song. I even removed and added some elements here and there. Let's take a look at the guitars. Me and a buddy of mine sat together and recorded the guitars here in my studio. Since this track has been in production for a few years, I didn't have the best gear for recording, so the takes are a bit noisy. Nonetheless, the result turned out great, and this is how I did the mix. We recorded a bunch of different takes and variations, but ended up using these 4. The 3 similar for lead and dubs, and 1 layer and octave above. I chopped out every single note and placed them in perfect time to keep them as clean as possible. I panned these 2 to either side to get a nice and full stereo image. And I kept this lead in the middle to keep the guitar in your face. I also did some EQing and compression on each track, as you can see here. To fill in the spaces in the melody, I added a lot of delay on the long notes. To achieve this, I cut it out and added a 100% wet delay to it. This way we only hear the delay and not the ghost note. I automated the dry wet to turn off the delay as the end part of the melody plays, so the notes don't collide. I also used Little Alter Boy to automate the formant of the delay, which gives a cool fading effect. Lastly, I grouped all of the tracks together and added a bunch of EQs, compressors, reverb and distortion to fatten up the sound and shape it how I wanted it. I'll turn off the reverb and show you the before and after. Even though it reveals a lot of the noise, it's not a problem in the final mix. I'll quickly go through each single plugin so you can see how I did it. Firstly, we got a couple of EQs here, and a mid-side EQ, a compressor. This is a plugin I've made myself that simply is a sidechained reverb. Here's an OTT, BX refinement, fab filter, smart EQ, magnetic 2, more EQing, more EQ automation, decapitator, and some digital clipping. That was the lead guitar. Let's move over to the kick and the sub. So the kick and the sub is an extremely important part of EDM music like this. It's extremely important to try to keep a sine wave going through your track without it getting disturbed or crashing. When the frequencies are so low, then you can actually see and manipulate the sine waves manually. That's why I've bounced out the kick and the sub, and I've done this and chopped it up manually for the entire drop. I have this plugin called Cyscope Pro, which shows me exactly how the 2 tracks gets blended together. As you can see, here is the kick and here is the sub, and the waveform is moving quite well between them. There's no phasing issues, which is extremely important so that you get this nice looking wave. And for this part, you can see that if I pull this out, then the kick is crashing with the sub. So therefore I cut it like this so they won't crash. And always keep in mind that sub frequencies can't crash, they have to move nicely. Right here you can see it looks good, and if I move this over to the side, it looks very weird, and you should try to avoid that as much as possible. Then I put both of them together in one bus and did some parallel compression. I have a quite aggressive compressor and set it to 40%. I did the same thing with this OTT, about 40%. Then I removed some of the low frequencies that you won't hear anyways, and I clipped it with a digital clipper. And the final waveform looks very good. So that's how I made Find You Tonight. I hope you enjoyed my video. You can find the links to the song down below. It would mean a lot to me if you added it to your favorite playlists and showed it to your friends. If you have any questions, please post them down in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.
Let's begin.